Welcome to MacGyver's Workshop, where you never know what we're going to be working on next. If you're not too careful, you just might learn something.
And now it's time to go ahead and get the valve body onto the transmission. We want to get the check balls in the valve body first. So we're going to flip it over. I should add, I've put all new solenoids in. I've got one that's not in yet, but that has to go in last after the valve body's bolted onto the transmission. We'll go ahead and get our check balls ready here. Let's see, I got one here and one here. So I got one here. I got one here. One here. I got one here. And one over here. Now, since we're going to have to flip this over, I'm going to use some trans goob here. Hold those check balls in place so they don't fall out. Now we'll go ahead and set our valve body down onto the transmission, and we'll have to be careful because we've got 3 different length bolts, and we've got to be careful where they go, because if you put the wrong one in there, it could possibly go through the case and lock up all your rotating parts in there. So we definitely don't want that. That would not be good. All right. Now the 3 longest bolts go right here. So we'll start with those guys. Those are 2 3/4 inches long. Just get them in position there, and they have 10mm heads on them. And then you have 3 with 8mm heads on them, and they go here, here, and here. We'll get these guys started. Then you have 2 10mm headed bolts that are 1 5/16" long. One of them has the a dipstick, like a dipstick stop on it, and you have to make sure with this style anyway that it goes in just like this, okay? Because if you put it in the wrong way, it'll interfere with the pan. You won't be able to get the pan on. And these two shorter bolts go here and here. And these two bolts, by the way, are 1 9/16, not 1 5/16. And then all the rest of them, they're all the same length. They just go in all the rest of the holes. All the rest of them have 10mm heads on them. These are all, I think, 2-inch. Now all these bolts, they'll all get tightened to 120 inch-pounds. Now I'm going to do the 10mm because I want to start from the center and work my way out. I'm going to use my hand thing here to snug everything up. Kind of finger tight, if you will. And remember, you don't want to get ham-fisted with this stuff. These are aluminum valve bodies and aluminum case. They don't need an excessive amount of tightening torque. Like I said, trust the science. Go over them again and just check. In theory, nothing should have loosened up. And they are still good. All right. Then put our detent spring in. There's a 13mm. Now, technically, that's 200 inch-pounds. Usually you just snug that down like that. Alrighty, now we will put our torque converter clutch solenoid in here, but I'm going to lube that up just a smidge. I replaced this whole wiring harness too, just for good measure. We had a couple of flaky solenoids. So I changed out all the solenoids. This one here was broken, had an intermittent connection, electrical connection. Didn't catch that one first time around. This is also 120 inch-pounds. Once we get that in there, and we've got that in there, now we can put our PWM solenoid back in. We'll lube our O-rings up here so she slides in nice and easy peasy. So you can't put that in until you get this in, because otherwise you can't get the bolt in. Might as well go ahead and, this was later on in the script here, but I might as well go ahead and connect those while I'm there. Oh, that's lovely. They gave me a new style EPC solenoid connector there. Lovely. Well, that's okay. We can work around that. Alright, now we got to work around this little problem here with the EPC solenoid. So even though our truck is a 2003, it still has an O2 valve body, which is fine, as it has the early EPC solenoid, which is also fine because they're known to be a lot more reliable than the later design, which takes this small connector. Now, when I ordered the harness, I didn't realize that this was going to come with the late style connector, so that's an error on my part. However, it's not the end of the world, because I still have a good connector for the old style EPC solenoid right here from the old harness, and I will solder and heat shrink the connections to this new harness. And it's an isolated coil, so there's no polarity, so we're good either way with that. So it's just a simple matter of a little snip, and a little strip here. Now, what is important is that you use the proper heat shrink tubing. If you use the cheap stuff, then it will break down in transmission fluid. You want to use the good stuff that's made out of polyolefin based material. Now, I know some folks aren't big fans of Dorman stuff, but it was local to me and quick to get. So, but I confirmed that the Dorman 87500 heat shrink tubing kit is indeed polyolefin based material. So it's safe to use in this transmission pad, and it'll hold up. We will slide them little buggers on there first. Now the trick to soldering is to make sure you have a decent mechanical connection before you actually solder. You don't want to just lay the two wires together and then count on your solder to hold your connection. That's no bueno. And the other trick is to have you a good Chuck Norris level gun. You know, your little weenie 150 watt pencil tip irons. They're just not going to make the heat that you need, you know, to solder something like this. Now, this is a 260 watt, well, 200 and 260 watt. It's a dual wattage gun. It gets really hot really fast. So you can get in there, get it hot, get it soldered, and get the hell out. And there you go. Alright, and then we pull our heat shrink over it. Now first, actually, and make sure I don't have any sharp edges catching there, which is good. And then we take our heat gun and do our shrinky dink thing. Any y'all remember that back from the 70s and the early 80s, shrinky dinks? The toy, you put them in the oven and they shrink up. And there we go. Right as the mail, as they say. And we do this one. And there we are. That will go down and connect just like that. That is a piece of cake. Now we get our filter. I'll just put just a little tiny bit of lube on this, just to make sure she goes in easy. And there we go. She is all set. Look at that. Now another area of contention that a lot of people have with these is the pan gaskets. And problem is, if folks sit there and they you know, they tighten the dog crap out of the pan bolts, thinking, you know, they're going to keep it from leaking, but they end up causing more leaks than they fix. One thing you got to make sure of is you got to watch and make sure your gasket has a little notch going around this right here, because this is an exhaust port from your second gear and your servo ply here. And these gaskets are always supposed to go in completely dry. They're never supposed to have any sealer on. You make sure your flat magnet's in there, and of course that the pan is clean. But the most important thing you want to check for is you want to check and make sure, there is a raised rib around here, to bite into the gasket, but you want to make sure the area right around the bolt holes, okay, you want to make sure that that area isn't like volcanoed up like that from the bolts being over tightened, because that'll prevent the gasket from making a good seal. Now we torque to 120 inch-pounds, no more. That's it. Back away. So this had this little sleeve on here, and I've already put a new rubber O-ring in there. But what's important about this is that this part, these splines, when it has this seal on it, this is something I didn't know. If it has this sleeve on here, then these splines have to be coated with a heavy-duty axle grease, and not like Transgel or anything like that. So I guess this is the yoke from the drive shaft. I suppose then it would be dry otherwise, because it doesn't get any, it's protected with this sleeve, so it won't get any lube from the transmission. So that was something interesting that I didn't know. You'd always try and learn something new every day. Make sure you put your new O-ring seal on your output shaft housing. All right, she's all torqued down. Now we'll put our speed sensor back in here. Let's give her a jiggle and a push as you go in with her. And that's going to be a little bitty 8mm headed short bolt. I don't know that they offer a torque spec for this, but I don't think the torque is critical. Just don't overdo it. Since everything else with an 8mm head was 120 inch-pounds, that's what I'm going to do on this one. Y'all did remember to get your special socket, right, for these, because if you use just a regular old T50, you're going to be sorry. Well, you could be sorry. I'm sure there's about a bazillion of you guys out there who use T50s all day long. I'm looking at these bell housing bolts here, and I'm seeing how the faces are hammered here where somebody had used it before we got to it. They just used a T50 on it. But the tool really wasn't that expensive. Now the torque spec, as I recall, on these bolts is 53 foot-pounds. So let's take our torque wrench up to 53. And let's have at her. All right, go over and check them, make sure I didn't miss anything. Yep, guess I missed that one. All right. There. I always kind of like to pull it back out against that ring because it will make a very obnoxious and scary sounding pop going down the road when you hit second gear. It'd be one of those things that makes you go, what was that? All right, let's talk post-mortem. What do we have? What we found in there was we found, well, let me go get the clutches here. At first, you know, it didn't look bad when I was taking it apart. But once I got everything cleaned and dried, or dry-ish, I noticed some burning. This is the reverse input drum. So, you know, we had some issues there. And the reason I believe that was happening is because the clearance on that clutch pack was too tight. We had an identical problem in the low reverse clutch, and come to find out, low reverse was too tight as well. So loosen those two up, and the rear case bushing, we didn't drive that in and countersink it about 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch below the surface there. So that is what was, that's a metal bushing. So that's what was making our silvery glitter. And the rest was was clutch material. And that was from the clutches being, the clutch clearance being too tight. And I think that we also may have had a little bit of bind up, possibly going from second to third. I don't see any, did not see any burning at all in the 3/4. I did not see any indication of any heat on the second gear band or the drum. But just to be sure, we're paying real careful attention to, you know, clutch clearances in the 3/4 clutch pack, because, you know, we added that Sonex heavy duty 3/4 clutch kit, which adds extra clutches and steels and harder and stronger clutch backing plates and apply plates. So I think we're good there. I did put the 3/4 boost springs back in. Air checked all the clutches. All the clutches are good. You know, applying the clutches was no problem. I mean, they were applying very well. You know, well enough to burn the input reverse up. So the solenoid, of course, the 3/2 downshift solenoid plastic connector was cracked on it, and it was allowing it could flex. It was not cracked or broken clean through, but it was cracked enough to flex. And if I had my own meter on it while I was flexing it, it would go intermittently open. So I never noticed any 3/2 downshift issues, but I'm sure if it wasn't, it would be at some point. So we kind of caught that one. At the very best case scenario, we caught that before it became an issue. All of the solenoids I've changed. None of them had any trash in them, but you know, they've got a couple 100,000 miles on them, so we're changing them. We changed the wiring harness. Once I get this thing back in the truck, you know, we're going to do another episode also where I'm going to be going through the computer side of things, and let's see what the computer's telling this thing to do. So there was an issue with the prindle on this thing. Somebody had botched up the prindle and glued the connectors into it and all. So I gotta solder new connectors on the end of the harness in the truck and put a new prindle on this. So you know, you'll be seeing that in a follow-up episode. So so stay tuned, and I appreciate you watching. I know these videos like this can be kind of long and boring, but you know, a video like this is not necessarily designed to be entertainment. If you want to see dancing kittens, well, you know, go watch TikTok or something, because my channel ain't it. You know, I may throw something funny out there every once in a while, and that's all well and good, but something like this, you know, I'm putting it out there, and it's going to be long, boring, and detailed. You know, I can definitely get my Ben Stein on, you know. But you know, the thing is I'm not going to skip any important parts. You know, it's the thing I hate about some of these videos out there. You know, they'll skip an important part that's like really hard and time consuming. Heck, if somebody has to get their transmission rebuilt, it's going to cost them $4 to $6 grand. You know, and if you've got a 2003 Silverado pickup truck, you know, a lot of these folks that drive these vehicles, they ain't got that kind of money to throw at it. So they'd be inclined to try and fix it themselves. And hey, more power to them, you know. But the key is patience, 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 and learning. You know, educate yourself. And if you educate yourself and you take the time, yes, there are some special tools, you know, but God bless Amazon. You know, all these weird level 11 on the weird shit-o-meter tools that you see me using, you know, they either came off of Amazon or I made them myself, you know. So, you know, it can be done. It can be done. That's all that can be said. And, you know, have confidence in yourself, you know. And if you have any questions, reach out to me. You know, you can get me at MacGyversWorkshop@gmail.com, and check out my website, www.MacGyversWorkshop.com. Like I said, if you like what you see and you like what you tune into here, please subscribe. You know, click the notification bell icon there, you know, to be notified when I put new videos up. It really helps me out, and it helps keep the lights on here in this shop. Again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.